Paul Sackett's Good News Planet and Peace Day Party. I'm speaking to Doug Shipman, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the National Center for Civil and Human Rights. Hi, Doug. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Well, you're a very important person. You're involved with a very important museum, actually a new civil rights museum, and we're going to learn about the mission and the importance of preserving the legacy of Martin Luther King Jr. Thank God the country made a national holiday to celebrate a man who talked about freedom and talked about peace. And so, Doug, tell us what's going on there.
Well, we opened the new facility 7 months ago. It's a museum. We have some of the original papers of Dr. Martin Luther King always on display. For instance, right now we have a handwritten sermon from the Selma movement, actually, that was featured in the movie. We have sermons and speeches and telegrams from other people like LBJ and Bobby Kennedy to King, so visitors can see those documents. And then we also have a whole series of galleries around the civil rights legacy, where people can experience what it was like to sit at a lunch counter, what it was like to be at the March on Washington. And then also we talk a lot about contemporary human rights issues in our human rights galleries, so you can meet people who are working on human rights today, meet people who are under threat from human rights issues. And those are just the ways in which people on a daily basis experience us. Then people experience programs that we throw, films, speeches, educational initiatives. We really try to engage visitors in not only learning about issues of civil and human rights, but also inspiring them to go and do the work wherever they live on the issues that their communities face.
So we do this on September 21st is the International Day of Peace as declared by 193 countries of the world. And we included a speech and sermon by Martin Luther King in that program. What do you think it was about him that has made him, one of the leaders of all times in the world of freedom and peace?
Well, I think that there are a couple of things that really distinguish King. One is that he was such a great speaker, not only just from a style point of view, but King was able to really speak to the heart of individuals in a way that people very spiritually and very deeply could connect with what he was saying, could connect with the aspirations that he had. I think he articulated people's hopes and fears in ways that few have ever done, certainly in American history. I think the other is that he was an incredible intellectual thinker. And so he thought about the interconnectedness between issues like poverty and war and racism. He thought about the issues on a global level in many ways before others had thought about them in that way. And so as you go back to King in each generation, like a Lincoln or like a Gandhi, you continue to find things that are relevant in his speeches and in his writings that you can take and apply today. And I think that relevancy is what we continue to find when we turn and we learn more about King.
Well spoken yourself. People like Pete Seeger, who we were good friends with, and Peter Yarrow, and people that he inspired people to walk with him, to be with him, to stand up for what is right.
That's exactly right.
How did he do that? In addition to what you just said.
I think that he spoke to people's aspirations, and he allowed them to see that the world could be different, but he challenged them to actually be a part of the difference making. He really said, if you care about this, then you need to go and do this. If you care about this, then you have to make it happen. And that kind of encouragement and challenge is one that really moved people, and they were willing to put themselves on the line, whether they were putting their life on the line, they were putting their reputation on the line, they were putting their family members in harm's way. He was one of the few folks that really could inspire action. And I think that he did it not only for America in the 60s, but for instance, when Tahrir Square fell in Egypt a few years ago, they were holding up signs that said, "I am a man" in Arabic, which is a direct reference to Memphis in 1968 where King was killed. So he continues to inspire people to put themselves on the line, to work for a better society and to work for peace.
Well, that's good news. The movie Selma now coming out, I say great timing and a great opportunity for the museum to capitalize, I guess you'll say, in real life terms, let more people know about what you're doing, because Selma's going to let a lot more people know about Dr. King. Would you say that's so?
Absolutely. Anytime that you have such a high-quality movie that comes out about a topic, it helps people discover it.
New York, Los Angeles, inciting large-scale arrests and sympathy marches.
I'm very aware of that, Mr. Hoover. What I do know is he's nonviolent. What I need to know right now, what's Martin Luther King about to do next?
Mr. President, Dr. King is here.
Mr. President, in the South, there have been thousands of racially motivated murders.
We need your help, Dr. King. This thing's just gonna have to wait. It cannot wait. You got one big issue, I got 101.
Selma it is.
Here is the next great battle.
Selma's the place, and they ready.
Dr. King!
I tell you, that white boy can hit.
You will not tolerate agitators attempting to orchestrate a disturbance in this state.
It is unacceptable that they use their power to keep us voiceless. Those that have gone before us say no more.
People actually say they're gonna kill our children. They're trying to get inside of your head.
What happens when a man stands up, says enough is enough?
We built the path as we came, rock by rock.
His cell is probably bugged.
It probably is.
We must march. We must stand up.
You march those people into rural Alabama, it's gotta be open season.
May I have a word?
There's no word to be had.
The people. The people. The people. The people.
There are 70 million people watching.
These pictures are going around the world.
We must make a massive demonstration. White, black, and otherwise. Come to Selma.
I heard about the attack of innocent people. I couldn't just stand by.
Looks like an army out there.
This revolution goes on and on. This revolution goes on and on.
Mine eyes have seen the glory, 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 hallelujah.
What happens when a man stands up, says enough is enough?
But in fact, less than 25% of Americans can remember the I Have a Dream speech now, because most of us weren't alive, myself included. And so a movie like Selma introduces the topic to a lot of people. It also makes people want to learn more. And then I don't think you can help but look at a movie like Selma and the scenes of those marches and to think about what we saw in Ferguson, to think about what we saw in New York. And so it also makes it very, very contemporary. And people say, if I care about what's happening today, then I need to know more about that. And an institution like ours, we do see visitors bringing their ticket stubs. We offer them a small discount if they bring their Selma ticket stub. They bring their ticket stub and they say, I saw the movie and I want to visit your center because I want to know even more.
Good idea. Very, very, very good idea. And do you feel that the movie does the man justice and the situation in Selma justice from your observations and from your closeness now to the history here?
You know, I have never seen a portrayal of the personal King that's better than Selma, to show what it was like to be king, to move from the Oval Office to somebody's kitchen in Selma, to confronting police, to what it felt like to be the burden of a leader of a movement where people were dying. I think that portrait of King is incredibly strong and is so personal in a way that we haven't seen it before. And I think the movie overall does a great job of showcasing what that movement was about and what it felt like to be a part of it, and some of the complexities, the arguments between SNCC and SCLC, between the various personalities. I think you get a great sense of that. Obviously, in 2 hours, you can only cover so much, but I think the director and the actors really brought it to life in a special way.
Tell me if this is correct. I want to give a shout-out to the Coca-Cola Corporation. Did they have some involvement with your museum? Aren't you?
They did. That's right. The Coca-Cola if Coca-Cola had purchased 20 acres in downtown Atlanta, they donated 10 of those acres to a new aquarium that was built a few years ago, and then they donated 5 of those acres for us to build the Center for Civil and Human Rights on. An interesting story, their CEO at the time was Neville Isdell. One of the reasons he was so interested in the donation was because he had been a protester against the apartheid regime when he was a student in South Africa. And so that personal connection to human rights was one of the reasons why he really led the company to make the donation.
I have his speech, and he's speaking him at the Waldorf Astoria, talking about that. Actually, right next to Ban Ki-moon, Secretary General of the United Nations, and talking about freedoms, and that's what this is. That's what we're all about, right?
That's exactly right. Peacefully achieving freedom. That's what Dr. King talked about.
Tell us the museum. You go in the door. Give me some, if you can, some descriptive. The rooms. Give me a little tour, if you can.
Sure. So when you come in the lobby, you see a huge mural that depicts protests and political posters from around the world, and a hand in the middle, which is the hand of the person who's working for freedom. We've got 3 major galleries. One is the space in which we showcase Dr. King's papers. It's a wood-paneled room. It almost looks like a church. I Have a Dream floats by in 25 languages, and you can see the writings and the speeches of Dr. King. Then there's a series of civil rights galleries designed by George C. Wolfe, who's a Broadway producer and director, and you really walk through what's almost a play about civil rights. You sit at a lunch counter. You can sit on a Freedom Rider bus. You can be at the March on Washington. You can be at the King funeral. And then when you go to the third level, you go into the human rights galleries. In one gallery, you're in a room of mirrors, but in each of those mirrors are human rights people who you can meet who are facing a human rights issue today. You meet other activists. You can watch films. We have interactive tables. They're almost like huge iPads that you can pull up issues and go into them deeply. So it's a very interactive and a very immersive space. It's a very modern-looking building. It has 2 walls that are sort of curved, and when you approach it, you say, "What is that? That doesn't look like everything around it." So I think the whole experience for people is very emotional. It's very engaging, and at the end of the day, people tell us that they feel like they've gone through something important, but they feel inspired to do more.
2 last quick questions, and that George Wolfe didn't do too bad with the public theater as well. So you're in good hands. There's no doubt about that. So what's good news for you?
Good news for me is what we hear 15-year-olds saying to us every day. They say to us, it's the first time we've really gotten what this movement was about. We're inspired to go do more. We want to go home and ask our parents and our grandparents to tell us their stories. I think that for me, the good news is that younger people really want to tackle these issues. And they may not have the tools yet, but they have the appetite. And to me, that's incredibly exciting.
Last question. What is peace for you?
Peace for me is a society in which every person can be truly who they are. And they're not under threat from violence, and they're not under threat from intimidation, but that each person can say, this is who I want to be and this is how I want to live, and that the entire society affirms that.
I'd say it like Martin Luther, amen, our women. Doug, thank you very much for sharing, and best of luck, and we'll support you however we can, and just give me a holler. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Paul. I appreciate it very much.
All righty. Bye-bye.